Hello, my friend. In this video, we're going to be going over the best practices for when it comes to optimizing your Facebook and Instagram ads when you're trying to get as many streams as possible on Spotify. And because ads is really only a portion of what you're going to be wanting to do every time that you're releasing music, I've also included a free link to the 7-step release checklist that I follow every single time that I release music, and I've used it to get over 6 million streams on Spotify right now. So completely free. The link is in the description. But with that said, let's get into optimizing our ads. Let's jump right into this. When it comes to best practices for optimization, here's what you're going to want to make sure that you're always doing. So you always want to make sure that you're making one change at a time. So this can be if you wanted to test out a different format of ad. So maybe you're starting off with that visual style where it's showing the artwork and playing the artwork and playing your music in the background. If you also wanted to test out, say, like a performance video, you'll want to just do that. So don't create like a performance video and then also make a bunch of changes to the audiences that you're targeting and the locations that you're targeting. Because if you do a bunch of changes like that, it'll be hard for you to pinpoint what made things worse if the result got worse, or what made things better if the results got better. And every time that you make an optimization, like you're trying to optimize your ads to do better, there's a chance that it can get worse and there's a chance that it can get better. And the more that you know, like, okay, I tried a performance video, it was the only change I made. The song was the same, everything was the same, and my ads got worse. I have a feeling that maybe performance videos don't work for me, so in the future, this sucked that my campaign did a little worse, but now I know not to experiment with that in the future. So like learning from failure is extremely important when it comes to optimization. It's just as important as learning from successes. So always make sure you do one change at a time so that you can, as well as possible, understand what made the positive or negative change. What you're also going to want to do is make sure that you make changes every 3 to 4 days. So say in that example, you wanted to test a performance video. What you're going to want to do is add in that performance video and give the ads 2 or 3 or 4 days to run without touching it at all, because Facebook might need a little bit of time to run some tests, and it might make mistakes at the beginning as it's doing its own tests, and then it will course correct in the form of a couple days. If you're seeing something crazy, like say you're getting 20, 30 cents per conversion, you made the change and now you're seeing like $20 per conversion, something's wrong and you might want to stop that one and reset it and try again. But generally you're going to want to give it a couple days for Facebook to do its thing. You know what I mean? Another thing is if you're making any major changes to a campaign that you're running, it's best practice to, instead of just making the change to the campaign live, you're going to want to duplicate that campaign, make the change, then turn off the one you were running before and turn on the one with the change on it. And the reason for that is Facebook is constantly learning. So if you've been watching it a bunch, you know that there's the learning phase and all that kind of stuff. And if you make a big change like that after Facebook's already made its learnings, it can kind of just screw things up and Facebook might get all kind of confused. So whenever you're making it, particularly any major change, you're going to want to just duplicate things over, let Facebook start from scratch, and just start the learning process from the beginning. Super simple there. And lastly, we're going to get into this, and I kind of talked about this, but you're going to want to have a champion variable champion that has worked in the past, and you're going to want to introduce a challenger to defeat that champion. So in the example I was just kind of using there, you might have that video ad that's using the artwork, and you're going to introduce a challenger into the ring because the video ad with the artwork was the best before. He's the champ. You're going to introduce a challenger, the performance video, to try to beat out the champion. And so the idea is, instead of if you were just to run the campaign without the champion in there, so if you were just running a bunch of performance videos on their own, you wouldn't know how it would compare against the champion because it needs to directly be there during that test. There's so many things that can change from one week to the other, or anything like that. So you want to make sure that you have that champion and you're introducing challengers all the time. And that's kind of the process that you're following when you're optimizing your ads. So let's keep going into some more best practices here. We're going to talk about this a little bit more closely. So the idea again is the champion. You have, say, that ad that's been working or that audience that's been working. And a lot of times this might be with ad sets. So you're having a bunch of different artists in one ad set and you were having a bunch of different genres in another ad set, and you found that the artist was doing the best. So what you'll want to do on your next optimization test is you're going to keep that artist ad set as the champion, and you're going to introduce a challenger. So that challenger might be this time you're just gonna go crazy and you're gonna target like Nike and H&M because you feel like your audience really likes those clothing brands. So you're going to test your artist stack against some kind of clothing stack. And that's some kind of random test that you want to try. And this is the kind of process that you always want to follow. So you always have that champion that's been working, that's the steady, and you're introducing a challenger to try to defeat it. And generally, it's a good idea to have around 3 of these running at the same time. So you'll have the champion running and then maybe 1 or 2 challengers against it. This is kind of the main idea with optimization. You always want to be having a champion and challengers. So you're always trying to beat your best performance. So if this is a new release campaign, you might take the ad set that was working the best in release A, and then as you move to release B, you're going to take that ad set as the champion in release B and introduce some challengers to try to beat it, because you can always outperform yourself, and that's kind of the idea here. So the idea is essentially what this is called is A/B testing. And so the idea is very similar to what we were talking about. You have those champions and the challengers. You're always testing variables against each other to see which might work better and what might work worse. So generally the idea is with A/B testing, A is the A variable, B is the B variable. But this also stands for something else in like a cute little way, and that's to always be testing. So whenever you're running any kind of playlist campaign, even if you have one audience that's just killing it, it's always best practice to introduce a challenger to try to beat it. Because if you're always testing, that means you always have the chance to be improving, and that's really what optimization is. And like I mentioned before, like even if you introduce a challenger and that challenger loses, there's always something to learn in failure, even if it's not what you want. You obviously want to get better cost per stream and all that kind of stuff, but you can still learn what doesn't work, which can be as equally as helpful. So the idea is to always have champions and challengers and to always be testing. So another thing when it comes to optimization is something that I've been calling the post-game Carnage report. So if you've ever played Halo, at the end of any game, there would always be the Carnage report or the post-game Carnage report. And this is kind of where I got the inspiration from it. And I've seen other people talk about it. But the idea is at the end of these games, you would see all your stats. You would see your score and how many kills you got, assists, deaths, all that kind of stuff. And so similarly, whenever you're running an ad campaign, most specifically is very helpful for those new release campaigns. Whenever you're running a new ad campaign, at the end of those 2-3 weeks, it's a good idea to have your own little post-game Carnage report. Take a look at the Facebook ads, see what results you were getting, see what results you were getting over on the Spotify for Artists dashboard. Kind of dive into that and then see if you can see what audiences were working, what ads were working, and see if there's anything you can learn so that after that post-game Carnage report, when you're going to move on to either running a new test or running a new release campaign, you can take some findings there and apply that directly to your next release. So then we'll move on to benchmarks. You can take a quick sip of water. I feel like I've mentioned this before, so I'll go quickly through it. But generally, around 50 cents per conversion is decent. There's always room for improvement, especially with that number, but you're on the right track if you're seeing that. What you want to be moving towards is around 30 cents per conversion. If you could bring that down to 20, maybe even between 10 and 20, it's like really, really good. If you're around that area, then you should be sitting pretty, as long as, of course, I should always say that the caveat here is that you're confirming that it's actually turning to ads. It's actually turning into streams on the Spotify for Artists dashboard. If you're getting 0.0001 cent per stream, 0.001 cent per conversion on Facebook, but it's turning into 0 streams, that's as good as useless. And if you're seeing around 75 cents per conversion, that definitely means that there's a lot of room for improvement there. You're going to want to introduce a bunch of new tests to try to bring that down. If you're seeing anything above $1, that's quite bad. Maybe give it a little bit of time to see if it'll course correct, but you're most likely going to want to introduce a new test to try something out there. And again, like I mentioned just a bit earlier there, if you're seeing like under 5 cents or under 10 cents, that could be really good, or it could be too good to be true. So you definitely want to make sure that you're cross-referencing in the Spotify for Artists dashboard. In terms of what to test when you're doing this, so I think we've pretty well established that the idea is that you always want to be testing something. You always want to have a champion that you know that was working before, and you're going to want to introduce different challengers to test against them so that you can improve your results or learn from failure in the worst case scenario. Hello, my friend. Hopefully you now have a better idea of how you can go about optimizing your Facebook and Instagram ads so you can get as many streams as possible over on Spotify. If you want to go a little bit further than Facebook ads, you're going to want to check out the link in the description below for the 7-step release checklist that I follow every single time that I'm releasing music on Spotify. It's going to go beyond just the Facebook ads portion of things. and it's what I've used to get over 6 million streams on Spotify so far. So it's completely free. The link is in the description. And with that said, if you like this video, like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video, my friend. Have a good one.